If you missed it back in 2015, Marvel paid homage to hip-hop, a whole series of comic book covers, which were swipes of classic hip-hop album covers. I made a video about this previously, and here are some of my favorites. It was a lot of fun doing that video. But Marvel did a whole lot more of these, so in this video, I'm doing part 2 of this. It's more swipes, but no audio to avoid copyright strikes. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you 20 more that were not in the first video. Number 20 is Black Panther. This is the run where Ta-Nehisi Coates was writing it and Brian Stelfreeze was drawing the comic in 2016. This was the run that gave us the intergalactic kingdom of Wakanda. Of course, this is a swipe of Jay-Z's classic, The Black Album, released in 2003. Jigga has a lot of classics, but this one's way up there. Big hits like Dirt Off Your Shoulder. Even Obama was doing this move when he was running for president. And even more influential and controversial is 99 Problems, produced by Rick Rubin, who's a legend in his own right. You know how the hook go, I don't have to repeat it. So we're off to a good start with a fantastic swipe, right? Well, it gets better. Number 19 is The Black Knight #1. This was released in 2015 for Marvel Comics. He's a pretty obscure character, but we got a tease that he's going to show up in live action and play an important role in the MCU. This cover is a swipe of Lupe Fiasco's 2006 classic, Food and Liquor. This Chicago rapper is extremely underrated. The most famous song from this album is Kick Push. It tells the story of the everyday life of a black skateboarder, and it's brilliant. Critics like myself believe that Lupe is just ahead of his time. He's a forerunner of artists that are left of center that came after him, like Kendrick, Lamar. He just got stuck on Atlantic Records where they didn't know what to do with him. As for the Black Knight, he has the potential to be a very important character in the MCU going forward. And this is a pretty awesome swipe, isn't it? Number 18, The Mighty Thor #1. This is the version where Jane Foster becomes the Goddess of Thunder, which first came out in 2014. And this is an incredible swipe of the 2004 Mad Villainy album featuring Madlib. R.I.P. to Doom. Man, he was the best. He took parody, sarcasm, and concept albums and ranked it up to 11 with incredible lyricism over short songs, usually without a hook. R.I.P. to the highest. Marvel did adapt this Jane Foster story into live action in Thor Love and Thunder. Unfortunately, the movie wasn't that hot, but that's another story. This is a great swipe though, and a must-have for your collection. Number 17, Man Logan #1. This came out in 2016, post-Battle World, after Marvel did some really confusing stuff. It made the continuity very hard to follow, but it produced some nice art like this swipe of Ice Cube's second solo album called Death Certificate, released in 1991. Remember, this controversial album was released just 1 year before the LA riots. This album perfectly encapsulates this how LA was a powder keg just waiting to explode, and the acquittal and the Rodney King beating was the match. The Old Man Logan story was originally just a self-contained, out-of-continuity story, told in the deep future where Wolverine is old AF. Marvel started to play with it more in 2016. The Logan movie took a lot of liberties with the original material, but it was very good. And of course, we got this awesome swipe. This is just very great stuff here. Number 16, SpiderMan #1. This was released in 2016, and from the way he's dressed, you can see where this is going, right? Spidey the Parker 2 is a swipe of Lil Wayne the Carter 4, showing him as a kid with a cap and gown, and of course the tats were digitally added. I'm probably going to overuse the word legend in this video, but he's definitely one of them. When Cash Money first came out in the 1990s, I thought he was just going to be a hype man like Flavor Flav, but he overachieved big time in the 2000s and influenced countless rappers after him. The Carter 4 has some monster hits, like 6'7" co-starring Corey Guns, a sleazy but epic tale of groupie abuse in She Will, featuring Drake, the underrated John featuring Rick Ross that a lot of people forget about. He even had a hit with How to Love, which basically was an R&B ballad. Overall, this is another great swipe that you gotta have for your collection, or it just won't be complete. Number 15, Doctor Strange #1. This was released in 2015. This was during the Jason Aaron run where he was carrying around an axe. There's nothing really particularly great about this art except that it's swiping one of the best albums in the history of hip-hop in The Chronic, which was released in 1992 from Dr. Dre featuring Snoop Dogg, which included the monster hit Ain't Nothing But a G Thing, Baby. Dr. Dre is now in his 60s and he's a billionaire, but when Straight Outta Compton became a huge hit in 1988, nothing would ever be the same. Legends like Snoop Dogg and Eminem got their first big break from Dr. Dre. The 2015 Straight Outta Compton movie was pretty good. So you got Doctor Strange the Mystic and Dr. Dre the Chronic. You're gonna run out of money trying to find all these and collect them, ain't you? Number 14 is The Great Lake Avengers #1, released in 2016. It really doesn't matter who these characters are. It is a bunch of D-list characters that are a spin-off of the Avengers. It's an awesome swipe of MC Light's 1988 Liza Rock out. That's her in baby blue beside her gigantic bodyguard, her DJ K-Rock at the bottom, and some random model on the left. MC Light deserves her flowers in her lifetime. This female female rapper hailing from Brooklyn, was the first solo female to get a gold record in rap, and probably the first one to be taken seriously for her lyricism until Queen Latifah made her debut about a year later. Light Man named for herself, telling stories about dysfunctional relationships. Her first single was about a guy named Sam that she used to date who got addicted to crack. Of course, her infamous Paper Thin, where she sticks it to a lying-ass man saying, "What you say to me is just paper thin." Here's MC Lyte at 52 years old, still looking great. She opened doors for countless female rappers after her. Immortalizing her with this swipe is a good tribute to her. Number 13, Web Warriors #1. This was released in 2016. As you can tell, it's a story that has several Spider-Verse variants, like Spider-Gwen, Spider-Man Nor, and of course, Spider-Ham. This is a swipe of the 2002 classic Lord Willin' by The Clips, a rap duo of two brothers from Virginia who went by the names of Pusha T and Malice. The big hit on this album is the first single, Grindin'. If you were in school at the time, this is the song that got everyone in trouble by pounding on the lunch table, trying to recreate this beat. Grindin' was the blueprint for The Clips' #1 subject, selling drugs. Malice went on to renounce what the group used to rap about, but his brother Pusha T continued as a solo act to mass acclaim. The brothers reunited briefly in 2022. Mad props to The Clips for this album that influenced both trap and drill artists after them. Number 12, Extraordinary X-Men #1, released in 2015. If that's not clear to you, that's supposed to be Jean Grey, Old Man Logan, Wolverine, and Storm. It's a swipe of the madly influential 1988 album 3 Feet High and Rising by De La Soul. In an era where rap was starting to become very gangster, this trio from Long Island made it cool to be a blurred and be unapologetic about it. Instead of being b-boys with gold chains, they dressed like they might be hippies or something. They were part of the Native Tongues Collective, an affiliation of other left or center rap groups like the Jungle Brothers, Black Sheep, and most famous of them all, A Tribe Called Quest, R.I.P. the Fife. The biggest hit off of 3 Feet High and Rising is, of course, Me, Myself, and I, which encourages the listener to be proud of your individualism. It's not something to be ashamed of, it's actually a badge of honor. Unfortunately, we lost a member of Daylight with the passing of Trugo the Dove in 2023. They gave him an awesome tribute by Black Thought of the Roots stepping in to do his verses. Mad props. The De La Souls of the world made it possible for future artists like Kanye West and Kid Cudi that dared to be different, so get this swipe in their honor. Number 11, Uncanny Inhumans #1, which was released back in 2015. You probably heard of the Inhumans, whose royal family consists of Black Bolt and his queen Medusa. And this is a swipe of Outkast's 1998 classic album, Aquemini. Aquemini is a mashup of their two astrological signs, Aquarius and Gemini. From Dirty South legends to international superstars, Big Boy and Andre 3000 made their debut in 1994 with Southern Playalistic Cadillac funky music for your trunk. Early Outkast is influenced by 8-Ball and MJG, and of course, the Underground Kings. Outkast decided to not just stay in the Cadillac, but start to experiment, and we loved it all. It had us thinking, what is Andre 3000 going to wear and say next? The biggest hit on Aquemini is Rosa Parks, an absolute banger, which doesn't even say the name Rosa Parks in it. They use a situation involving her as a metaphor. Unfortunately, the real life Rosa Parks, who was alive at the time, actually sued them, but that's a whole other story I'm not getting into right now. This is an excellent swipe. Another must have on eBay, and your wallet's starting to hate you now. Number 10 is Daredevil #1. This was released in 2016. It's called Strictly for the Kitchen. Also known as Matt Murdock, he's a very unique superhero in that he fights crime even though he's blind. This is a swipe of Tupac's 1993 Strictly for My N-Words, one of 2 of his albums that were swiped for this list. Without a doubt, he's one of the most influential rappers of all time. The amount of material he put out in just 6 years is astounding. This song contains a hit about groupies called I Get Around, but also the uplifting and encouraging Keep Your Head Up. Tupac was a walking contradiction. This 1 minute he could make a song about fixing black people's problems, and the next minute he'd make a song talking about how he is the problem. He was a complicated man and a very talented individual as well. This Daredevil swipe does him justice, and you will see him on the list again. Number 9 is Sam Wilson, Captain America. This was released back in 2015. This is the era where Sam Wilson was elevated to Captain America and got suit upgrades to go along with it. It's a swipe of Long Live ASAP from A$AP Rocky, released in 2013. Rocky's had quite a career as the leader of a collective of MCs all using the A$AP name. For a lot of people under 30, he's best known as Mr. Rihanna, as he shares 2 kids with his more famous girlfriend. But he had a nice run in 2010s, and this album contains arguably his biggest hit in Effin' Problems, featuring Drake, 2 Chainz, and Kendrick Lamar. I think he was trying to set a record on how many F-bombs you can drop in one song. As I mentioned before, Sam Wilson picked up the shield in the comics. They teased this ascension at the end of Endgame, and his live-action web series showed how complicated it was for a black man to take the mantle of Captain America. This is a great storyline for the Captain America mythos, and this is a very well-done swipe as well. Number 8 is Guardians of Infinity #1. It came out in 2015, and it shows several space-adventuring Marvel characters like Groot posing over a defeated Thanos. It's a swipe swipe of Kendrick Lamar's classic To Pimp a Butterfly, which came out in 2015 as well. The iconic image in which the hood has took over the White House, posing over a judge that looks a lot like Ronald Reagan. You really gotta give it up for Kendrick Lamar. His competitor Drake had more sales in the 2010s, but Kendrick Lamar was the most acclaimed. Butterfly is a masterpiece that touches on many different genres, and his biggest hit is probably We Gon' Be Alright. Kendrick is a true master of his craft. He came out on top in an era that was dominated by lean-sipping mumble rappers. If you're a real hip-hop fan, you should have love for Kendrick and love for this swipe. Number 7 is The Ultimates 2, number 1. This came out in 2017, showing the female members of the team, Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, and America Chavez. It's a swipe of Salt and Pepper's 1986 album, Hot, Cool, Vicious, which includes one of the biggest hits in hip-hop history, Push It, and probably one of the best double entendres because you can't tell if the song's talking about sex or it's talking about dancing. Either way, it's a monster influential hit. Salt and Pepper, still in their 50s, are still touring with a high energy stage show, and by far are the most successful rap female group of all time. As for the Ultimates, besides the characters I named before, it also includes Black Panther and the Blue Marvel. You gotta love this swipe, you really do. Number 6 is The Champions number 1, released in 2017. The Champions are a team of teenage superheroes that broke off from the Avengers and formed their own squad. It's a swipe of the Wu-Tang Clan's 2001 Iron Flag album. You gotta give it up for the Wu. I don't think any rap collective has such a loyal cult following. The RZA, the Jizza, You God, Inspector Deck, Oh Dirty Bastard, The Method Man, and you know the rest. You know the logo. You never call Staten Island by its name. You call it Shaolin, don't you? Iron Flag doesn't have the big hits, you know, like the 1993 Enter the Wu-Tang, the song Method Man, Protect Your Neck, and of course Cream, but still a very good overlooked album in their canon. The Wu is basically a mashup of kung fu flicks, comic books, 5% theology, and crack game hustling, and somehow they made it work. R.I.P. to Old Dirty Bastard. And remember, Wu-Tang is for the children. The Champions had a good run with this team and later added Riri Williams. So go find this swipe and see if you can add it to your collection. Number 5 is The New Avengers. This came out in 2015. We have some Avengers that are known like Hawkeye, but some lesser known ones like Hulkling and Wiccan, who's the son of the Scarlet Witch, but mostly D-list oddballs. It's a swipe of Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five's The Message out from 1982. Grandmaster Flash is a legend's legend. He created the crossfader and he improved on scratching. Shown here left to right is Grandmaster Flash, Kool Herc, and Africa Bambaataa. 3 DJs from the Bronx that are credited by most critics as the founders of hip-hop. And let's face it, the song The Message is probably the greatest rap song of all time in my opinion. And the group's lead rapper, Melly Mel, is one of the most influential MCs of all time. The New Avengers as a team isn't much to write home about, but if you're a completist and you really love the old school of hip-hop, then you have to have this. Number 4 is The Illuminati number 1. This was released in 2016. And just like the New Avengers, these are characters you have no idea who they are. And it really doesn't matter, but it's a swipe of Ice-T's 1988 Power album, which raised quite a few eyebrows when it was first released. The legend of the rapper and actor Ice-T began in 1986 with the release of his underground classic 6 in the Morning, the story of a small-time drug dealer who's trying to escape the police. Remember, this predates NWA in terms of gangster rap. He's probably best known for his 1991 movie New Jack City, where he plays an undercover cop. He's kept that hustle going in cop shows for the last 30 years. But what you really want to know about is the woman on the cover of Power, but she's not just a random model, she's actually his former wife and baby mama. And she became the eye candy to help him sell a lot of records. Her name is Darlene Ortiz, and here she is today hosting a radio show. I never thought that Ice-T was really that good of a rapper, but he was a grade A hustler. So it's cool to see him get immortalized in Marvel Comics with this variant. Number 3 is Deadpool number 1, The Merc with a Mouth. This was released back in 2016. It says Wade as in Wade Wilson, which is his real name. This awesome cover is a swipe of Wale's 2009 album, Attention Deficit. Nobody talks about this Washington, D.C. rapper that much anymore, but he was a rising star in the late 2000s and early 2010s. Attention Deficit doesn't have his biggest hits. Those came later with songs like Lotus Flower Bomb, guest starring Miguel, and Own Chill featuring Jeremiah. The rap game is crazy competitive out there. 1 minute you're hot, the next you're not. But I'll give Wale his flowers. He made some pretty good tunes that hold up over time. And Marvel gave him one of their coolest swipes for sure, no doubt. Number 2 is Drax number 1. This was released in 2016, highlighting a character that wasn't very well known until the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, played by Dave Bautista. It's a swipe of Kid Cudi's Man on the Moon 2, The Legend of Mr. Rager, released to critical acclaim in 2010. Cudi's had a very impressive career and a strong cult following. He's not a rapper that you can easily classify. He often worked with Kanye West during this era, and they brought out the best in each other, like their collaboration with Rihanna for the hit song All of the Lights. The best known song from this album is Erase Me featuring Kanye. Cudi's biggest hit overall is Day and Night. Cudi has always experimented with very trippy, introspective lyrics and sounds. If you missed it, he has a very good TV special on Netflix called Intergalactic, and a psychedelic inspired album that truly wins. As for Drax, he went from D-list to household name thanks to the movies. This is definitely one of the best swipes that Marvel ever did for their hip-hop variants. Alright, we had 19 other contenders, but only one can be number one, and that's going to be, wait for it, SpiderMan number 1. This was released in 2017, showing Marvel's marquee character in a very familiar pose, which is a swipe of Tupac's groundbreaking 1996 album, All Eyez on Me. Tupac is the only artist I put on this list twice, and for good reason. The sound of his flow and his music and his image, it never seems dated. He's transcended hip-hop to something more iconic like Jimi Hendrix or Bob Marley, a legend that was big in their lifetime but even bigger in depth, and a catalog of music that's just timeless that crosses over multiple generations. All Eyez on Me has some monster hits such as How Do You Want It featuring Casey and JoJo. And of course, the absolute banger California Love featuring Dr. Dre and the late Roger Troutman, with a video that recreates the Road Warrior Mad Max movies. 2 of America's Most Wanted featuring Snoop Dogg is on here as well. It's just an incredible double album of bangers. R.I.P. to Tupac. You did it like few others could ever do it, or will ever be able to do it, because he was a special, unique talent. Okay folks, what you're seeing right now is a recap of all 20 swipes that I chose for part 2 of this video, which you just saw. I can't even promise that I showed you all of them because there's so many of them. Right now you should be seeing the end screen that you can click on that will show you part 1 of this video with 10 other hip hop swipes, some of which I teased at the beginning of this video. These videos were very fun to make because it crosses over 2 of my favorite pastimes, in hip hop and comic books. Until next time, this is Comic Killer 72 for Comic Power saying bye bye.